Okay. We've just had a lovely lunch, so we're moving on now to 10.3, Governance Structure and Delegations 22-25 Triennium. And I invite Steffi Heffelter and Morag Tamialani to introduce this. We are on page 21.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. I'm here to introduce the report 10.3, Governance Structure and Delegations for this triennium. First up, we've tabled a handout in front of you, and these are the changes that have been brought to our attention that you have discussed amongst yourselves since the report was written. So we thought just to bring that up so you can see what the changes you were discussing are. So that will not match the report, and it will not match the attachment that has been provided, any of the red add-ons or takeoffs on the handout. So basically that's the most up-to-date version that our team have. So this report asks Council to note that the Mayor in the last report has exercised her powers. I wanted to at this point out that I did make an error and added 2 words into the first recommendation that should be removed. She has the powers to establish committees and assign chairpersons, but it is up to Council to assign and agree the membership, so I apologise for that error. And then, so you will be noting that, and then there will be some electing of deputy chairs and appointment of deputy chairs, and then the committee and subcommittee and community boards delegations that are part of the document, and the membership of all the committees and subcommittees. I also note that there are some recommendations, recommendation E and F. They have traditionally been included in this report, especially E. Those of you who were on the last council would remember adopting triennial transition agreements to appoint councillors as the independent hearing commissioners throughout that period where council wasn't sitting. So we're just discharging those arrangements. And then F, once again, I apologise for that. Our team made an error and we put forward that Councillor Cooper could represent Council at the Wellington Regional Civil Defence and Emergency Management Joint Committee. However, actually the terms of reference read that it must be the Mayor and a Deputy Mayor in her stead. So we're just bringing that up again for you to discuss and adopt. I will take any questions that you may have.
Any questions about the report? Councillor Spires?
Yes, thank you. On page 25, at the bottom, the very last sentence, the Waste Levy Grants program also calls for a nominee each from the Waikanae and Paraparaumu hyphenated Raumati Community Boards. Now, is that Paraparaumu Community Board and Raumati Community Board, or should it be one or the other? Page 25 at the bottom.
All right. Yeah, that is just historical, so thank you for pointing that out. We will have to look into whether it is Paraparaumu and Raumati or just one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure there was one or you could have 2. That was all.
So I would actually suggest that that's historic, and we could decide at this meeting that would be the Waikanae, Paraparaumu and Raumati community boards. So we'll take questions on the whole report. Then after that we'll move and second, and any amendments people would like to be made, I'll get them moved and seconded and then voted on, and then we'll have at the end of that process we'll have a final report to vote on. So what's happening right now is questions. If you've got any questions about any amendments you'd like to make, or any questions about the report in general, I'll take them now. So I've got Cam on my list. Hang on, you need a microphone.
That one again, yeah. So thank you, Madam Chair. There's a few questions which came out of reading the report. Further our conversation in the lunchroom there, it's noted there that with the council, one representative per community board, so that should be, as we spoke, the chair and a nominated replacement. Is that the correct wording?
Yeah, so I think we may as well discuss it now. So I think the question is, in the report, does it say that it's just a nominated person or the chair for the council? And if not for the council, it should be the chair or alternate, and for the other ones, it should be. So we'll note that down to as an amendment.
Right.
I don't have the page in front of me. Staff,
I'm just
do you
looking
have?
at the big picture.
Cam, do you have the page?
Sorry, I don't. Glenn, do you remember the item 9?
So it is actually in the attachments. But we could also just make a note on the handout because that is the most up-to-date wording. So
Yeah, so I think any amendments to the membership of those committees, we'll make a note on the attachment, and then we'll find the page number and make the alteration.
All right. Next question, item number 7.6. Should the text read "shall appoint mana whenua representatives" rather than "may"? Like, is it actually supposed to be a binding requirement that mana whenua representatives are appointed, or does the council want wiggle room? It's just a wording thing because "shall" and "may" have very different meanings.
So which does it say? I think it's shall. Page number.
So 7.6.
Page number.
I can't work both on my computer.
It's in the attachment to the government structure.
It's in the governance structure.
How do you switch between
right.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, have you found it, or you still need me to find it? Page 40, thank you.
I think may is fine.
Yeah. I was just checking that was the correct English that we wanted to be used. Section 8.7, community board members are still excluded from public exclusion, excluded parts of council meetings. It's still a point of contention with a number of people, and the feedback that I've got from the other Otaki community board members is that they feel that
Yeah, if that's a question, that's what's in the delegations. We can debate it during debate. Yep.
Cool. The other question was under C3, under the old Risk and Audit Committee, there was a community board representative on that structure, and that has been removed. So it's now the Risk and Assurance Committee, but there is no community board representative on that.
Okay.
Sorry? Really? Okay, I attended them.
Okay, the answer is there isn't a community board member on that committee according to the paper we have in front of us.
Okay,
Yep.
so that wasn't traditionally there? Okay, because when I came on board with the Otaki Community Board, I was delegated that, and I turned up to the Risk and Audit Committees, and was there as with a speaking role.
So that's an amendment that could be moved.
Okay.
If you want to do that.
I think it would be valuable to give the opportunity.
Okay, when you move your amendment, you'll have the opportunity to debate that.
I'm not allowed to move. Someone will have to move it for me.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I will.
And the last thing, sorry, I know there's a few here. This might be just a background question, but under C4, there's members of the Raumati, Paraparamu, and Waikanae community boards on that, Otaki and Paipakaruki. It's the Waste Levy Fund. Just a question as to why the two other community boards are not on there. There may be a perfectly
Does
good reason.
anybody know why? There are.
Yeah, the northern and southern dodgy people. Well, that's all right. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Could I? Does anybody know why there's only 3?
Yeah, I just thought it was odd, just coming in from a fresh perspective.
Okay, so I'm making a note of those possible amendments, and we'll.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Councillor Wilson.
Well, I have an amendment, a significant amendment. I'm just wondering at what stage you want that put, or do you just want to continue taking questions?
We're still taking
So so we're just doing questions, and then we'll move the report as tabled, and then we'll move each amendment separately and vote on them.
This is a substantial amendment. You might want to think about the order of that. Because I wouldn't want to be unpicking stuff that we've done.
That's the way an amendment would be done.
Yeah.
So, but what he's saying is because what he's required.
Okay.
Me next, is it?
I'm just being provided with some information. It may be that I have to adjourn the meeting while I consider that. Okay, we'll address that as an amendment. Who's next? Councillor Pravanov.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mrs. Mayor, Ms. Mayor. Apologies for any wrongdoing there. So I have a number of questions. My first one relates to, it may well have been covered by one of the previous speakers, on page 40, item point 9. It says in here that non-appointed mana whenua and community board representatives may attend meetings at the discretion of the chair. My question is that what you wish to leave in there, or were you going to amend that, or someone else going to amend that?
Could I have a page number, please?
Yes, page 40. 9.9.
Yes, I would like to leave that in there. Yep, that was intentional.
Okay,
That's the
well,
answer to that question.
Okay, so I have a supplementary question to that. So in the 2 subcommittees, you have a community board member on each of those. They have voting rights, but they have no speaking rights, and that's actually at the discretion of the chair.
In the delegations and governance structure that's in front of us, the community board members have voting rights.
But not potentially any speaking rights.
They have voting rights on the subcommittees. Yes.
I know, but what I'm saying is that if they're going to play an active part in those committees, they need to have a guarantee that they can actually speak to what is actually occurring.
I'll get staff to answer that, thanks.
So for the 2 subcommittees, any appointed community board members that the community boards decide to put forward and then are appointed, they will have both speaking and voting rights.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So then that needs to be probably made a bit clearer in that point 9.
So the point 9 is non-appointed, so there's a slight difference there.
Oh, okay. So I think
Yes.
it's non-appointed mana whenua, not community board.
Also community board. So if there was an appointed community board member and another community board member were to turn up, they can be invited to speak,
Right.
but they would not have a vote.
Okay,
Does
then,
that
yes.
make it clear?
So it almost needs to be another non-appointed in front of the community board reps.
Okay.
Just to
Okay,
make it.
yep, but it would make it clearer. So non-appointed mana whenua or non-appointed community board representatives.
Yes. Yep. Okay, thank you. Right, so on page 41, point 11, it's got the mayor and the deputy mayor may attend community board meetings with speaking rights, but not voting rights. So is it your intention to include non-appointed ward councillors into that clause as well?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
as discussed.
Yep. My next page is not 53. 57.
I'm making a note of the changes.
Oh yes, page 57, the Chief Executive Performance and Employment Committee. So it's my understanding this was discussed at a away day, and was it not correct that all the chairs were going to be on that subcommittee?
Which subcommittee are you talking about?
This is the CPEC one.
So councillors have discussed that together. Unfortunately, you weren't able to attend that day, and the majority of councillors are in support of what's in the document that's in front of us today. So that's what we'll be voting on unless an amendment's moved.
Thank you. It's just that I heard that wasn't agreed on. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, page 60. Is there, so there's a number of responsibilities that community boards have. There's one here, providing a local perspective on the levels of service as detailed in the long-term plan on local expenditure. The word annual plan is not included in that. Is that an oversight, or is that, because I think later on in the standing orders, there is reference to the community boards being able to partake in that activity.
So this was just transferred into the document from last time, so if you wanted to include it, we can do that.
Okay, so that's a motion. Okay, we'll have to write it. Okay, thank you. My next question is, one thing that, as chair of the Waikanae Community Board, I was given the opportunity to provide advice on lease agreements for leases in the ward. That isn't in here, and maybe it's been taken out in the previous triennium, but what was the reason for that happening, and can it be added back in again? There's two questions there. It's on page 60. It's one of the bullet. It's not included in there. This is one that isn't there, but it previously, in a previous life, it was there.
Sorry, I would have no recollection of being clean, but I can pass it over to Sean, who's sticking his hand up.
Do I?
Oh, no. Oh, yes, possibly. Sorry, Madam Chair. The question was involvement in negotiations or discussions with lease documents?
No, it was actually having oversight, knowing it was actually being considered. Okay.
I wasn't aware that was ever a delegation that sat outside of the council. In terms of we would, as a courtesy, obviously, we would talk to any relevant ward councillor or community board member within that area if there was something happening, but certainly I'm not aware of us involving elected members at that level in terms of a delegation with regard to a lease. I mean, we in terms of the number of lease documents we have, you know, it's a reasonably lengthy, large area of focus of work and primarily operational in terms of where the majority of that would sit.
Councillor Bravano's waiting for her microphone to come back so she can continue her line of questioning.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mellon. So as a chair, there was one example came to mind where it was just routine that community board chairs were consulted, and that was to do with, there was some land in Jack's Bush Road that was being modified, and that came to me, and then it came to council after that. So it has actually happened in the previously. So I think it's useful for community boards to have an oversight of these leases.
Sorry, I just had a question for the Chief Executive. Was that something that Mr. Mellon was answering?
Well, I was just going to. Okay, there's several clauses in there that look to, I guess, the community board's role within anything, with those issues that relate to their area of responsibility. And again, as best practice, I guess there's nothing in here that precludes us from talking to community board chairs or councillors with regard to those issues, which is what we generally would do, which is the case in point that was raised as an example, where we would certainly look to involve them in that conversation if there was something controversial there or of concern to that particular ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mellon. Have you any more questions, Councillor Pravanov?
I do. So that is something that I can raise as an amendment later on? That particular one?
You could. I would, however, suggest from what Mr. Mellon has said that there might be some legal issues with such a delegation. So what I'd prefer to do actually is take that one offline and bring it back as a separate amendment later, either sooner than our review or as part of the review that we're going to do into delegations, and they'll take a note of it and just do a bit more work around it.
Yeah, thank you. I had to say that this was one of the items that I think I sent to you on Friday morning, so it has been circulated to yourself and to all elected members.
It wasn't one that I picked up. My apologies, Councillor Pravanov.
Okay, so the next one is on the same page, and this relates to names of local roads, and it's got here excluding the former state highway, and I suppose unfortunately or fortunately I have a past a long history with being an elected member, and so previously the community board went through a consultation process of looking at, I think it was 5 different sections of State Highway 1 that was going to be revocated, and I see that this has been specifically taken out of here, and so again I'm wondering why that is the case, and to me it should be, this particular clause should be amended as well. Sorry.
So the question is, why has that been taken out, Mr. Mellon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the revocated state highway, there was a specific report that came to council that basically varied the previous delegations so that that process would sit solely with the council in terms of that particular roading renaming, and at the moment that's currently where that sits in terms of that process itself.
Thank you. So was there any particular reason why that was taken away from community boards? Obviously they don't make the decision, I think they made the recommendation which was then made by council.
I might be able to answer that. I think it was seen that those roads impacted on more than one area because they were arterial routes between different communities, and so they were seen to be of wider district-wide interest than local roads usually are. So from memory, having been around this, I think as a councillor, that's my memory of why that happened. You were around at that time. I don't know if that aligns with your recollection.
Yeah, so I think the Waikanae Community Board had 5 sections basically between the river, maybe just south of the river, and Pika Pika. So it was actually about, North Road and South Road and all sort of bits like that, which is very, very specific, decision making to the area rather than a council.
So that issue isn't in front of us at the moment. Why don't we park that and have a conversation about where the responsibility for that naming would lie? I'm sure council might be very happy to delegate it back to the community boards. Sean Mellon.
Thank you. So on page...
Hang on, Sean's got a response.
Sorry.
There. Sorry, just to add to the mayor's comments, the delimitation of the sections of that state highway didn't align specifically with community board boundaries. So there's an overlap between because of the way the road had been named previously, there was again, looking at it in its entirety across the district, and the fact that it didn't align specifically with those sections of road within each community board ward was the practical issue around it. That's why it sat at that council level, and that hasn't changed in terms of the layout of the road and the current naming.
Oh, I'd like to move on from that topic now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so page 61, and after this will be a bit of a jump. So I just wanted to clarify. This is considering and making recommendations to council on a proposed use of the Waikanae Capital Improvement Fund. Can you affirm that it's the community board that actually makes the decisions on that funding?
So, Councillor, the way it's worded, you have the delegation, as in the Waikanae Community Board, has the delegation to make decisions on the fund, but has to make recommendations to council if it goes beyond the funding limit.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever the funding limit, you mean the money that's actually in the pool. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Right. Page 70. Sorry. On page 70, we have a list of appointments to external organisations. Another one that I had suggested, and I just wanted to see whether this is an appropriate amendment, is to add in appointees to the Taikatai Kapiti committee.
So I believe that's happened on this. Actually, hang on. So the Waste Levy now has Councillor Pavanov as the Wellington Region Waste Management and Minimisation Joint Committee.
Yes.
Was that so? That's in red. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm saying this is on page 70.
Yeah. So these amendments will be embedded into that document. That document you have in front of you is the agenda, which is from last Friday. So these are the changes that are going to be made to that document in terms of the membership of the committees.
Yeah. So this was an additional one.
Okay. Could you explain again?
Yeah. So basically on page 70, there's a list of appointments to external organisations, and unless there's somewhere else in the document that I haven't picked up, one of the ones that is not there is the CAPS committee. Yes, the Coastal Advisory Committee.
We don't have a council appointee on that committee, do we?
I thought yourself and Councillor.
No. Mr. Mellon would like to respond. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm overstepping my role as governor.
Sorry, so that Coastal Advisory, it's not a committee of council as such. There are community-based representatives on that panel, but there's also I think it's an advisory or a observers group of, I think there's a couple of councillors potentially nominated on there. That would be the only area at the moment where there is an opportunity to look at modifying that, because the panel itself is actually set up and structured around the community representation.
So yes, through you.
I just wanted to add, Councillor, that on the next page under section G, you would note that the advisory groups are actually, they're not listed there, but there's a comment there that will be considered at a later date.
Okay.
Does that help?
Okay, so thank you. So I think, Mr. Mellon is correct. I think there were observers, 2 councillors, and 1 from each of the community boards. But I'll leave it further to that. And I will leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So after hearing some of those amendments, what I'll probably do is I'll list off the amendments that I've noted, and then I'll be happy to move a bunch of them when I move the substantive motion. So, which I'm foreshadowing that I'd like to do. And then some of the ones that might be a little bit more contentious, we'll put them to a vote. So, Councillor Halliday?
Oh, just one that I've been asked to ask on behalf of somebody. Do community board members attending committee meetings that are being delegated to receive any additional remuneration?
The community board members' remuneration has been set by the Remuneration Authority. So you will see that there's a report coming up later where it discusses that.
Yep.
And council does have the power to give them additional remuneration, but it will have to come out of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So it will considerably change the numbers in that report.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's cool. I just wanted to check on that. That's something for us to discuss in the future.
Yeah, so I would point out that community board members also don't receive remuneration for coming to council or committee meetings as it stands. They are, however, entitled to travel allowances and childcare allowances for those meetings. But yeah, it's something that could certainly be considered in the future as the roles of community board members become stronger and potentially more hours as a result. So, Councillor Cooper.
Just a couple of questions that might not be the right forum, possibly. The non-elected members, do they fall within our code of conduct? Or do they sit outside our code of conduct?
So when they are appointed, an appointment letter is sent to them, and that includes a reference to the code of conduct. In relation to any legal standing, I would have to defer that to our legal team who are sitting in the back.
Just the appointment letters. So it's not something we've done in the past, but it's a new process, and we've applied it for mana whenua representatives as well. The letters draw on standing orders, code of conduct, and confidentiality as the key three areas that are important, both for elected members and non-elected members. So the signing of the letter is the contract that requires non-elected members to abide by similar conduct requirements as elected members, as with standing orders in the meetings.
I have requested that letter of appointment to circulate to councillors, but that hasn't happened yet. I'm happy to ask to get that printed off and circulated now for people to have a little look at as we're sitting here. Is that going to be okay?
Just to follow up to that question, so that letter is by agreement. They're not required to sign it to be at the meeting.
Yeah, the letter of appointment presumably would be signed by all parties. That's what generally happens with letters.
So it's a requirement for them to be a representative is to sign that letter.
That would be correct, wouldn't it?
Do you want to say that into the mic?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Thank you. And one last question.
Can I just confirm though before your question was about
non-elected?
Non-elected.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And lastly, in terms of appointed mana whenua representatives, are we talking multiple appointed people to one position? Is that something that may happen? Are we talking a pool of people that may turn up and changes between meetings?
That would be within the rights of our mana whenua partners to decide in terms of who they are wishing to attend which meetings and how that would work.
Can I add, remembering that this is for non-elected representatives, so if there's multiple, there will be multiple letters.
I'm going to let Mr. Baker respond to that.
Tēnā koe, Councillor. If I'm reading it correctly, I'm needing to refer to the recommendations passed by this council in June this year that clearly provides for each of the three mana whenua to consider their appointments either through chair or alternate to to be attached to the committees of council and council. I think I can say with a degree of confidence that our approach will be to see that we can establish as much consistency as possible so that we haven't got a multiple number of individuals attached to those meetings. But it clearly did indicate that the chair or alternate would have the opportunity to be appointed by their iwi, by our mana whenua iwi authorities to be our delegates to those committees and to attend council meetings. Our board, for example, only has 4 full trustees and 2 alternates, so we haven't got a huge number of people to consider putting forward for those appointments.
So it's similar to community boards.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate that. And just a comment. No. Thank you.
No comments.
Thank you. No, no, I'm not making comment.
Except me.
Happy.
I'm not seeing any other lights on. Can I check now whether anybody has any questions? Or we're going to move beyond question time, and I'll run through what I think I've heard so far and move the recommendation. The reason I'm moving the recommendation is to give everybody around the table an opportunity to move amendments if they want to, because as the mover of the motion, there isn't that opportunity there. So I'm quite happy to move this as what I think is what should be put forward, and then free it up to the table to make any other amendments. So we're also waiting on that letter which is being printed for people. Yes, Councillor Halliday.
Just a little housekeeping thing that I might think just it was prudent when it was told to me a while back. But for new councillors, if you are looking at jotting down notes or asking questions, it's very, very helpful for everybody if you can note the number and the page.
Yeah.
When you're telling us that we can all quite quickly get to the information.
Yeah, very good
I
point.
found it very useful in the past.
Actually, I'm going to. Seeing as the first one is to note the mayor's intent, I don't want to note my own intent, so I'll ask somebody else to move. Oh, we're up to that one. Okay, sorry, we're in the table. Where are we? Sorry. Sorry, I'm in slightly the wrong section. I'm just trying to what page is that? Yeah, so the noting of the establishment of the committees. I'll ask somebody else to do that. Yeah, well, yes, we will. No, we can take that all as one. That what we can see on the screen right now, we'll take that all as one. Do I have a mover for that? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Handford, any debate on that? We just had questions on the whole report. This is now the recommendations around the report. If you have any final questions, though, I'll speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, so a question?
I have an amendment.
Who moved it? Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want to move an amendment then?
Yeah, second that at the start.
So all we're moving is what you can see there on the screen. So we're only moving chair people at the moment, okay? We got that? Cool. So I'll put that, that's what you can see on your screen, which is the establishment of the committees and the chairpersons. That's been moved and seconded. I'll put that now. All in favour, please say aye. 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 Against? That's carried. Okay, now we've got B, that the council adopts either election system A or system B as outlined in Schedule 7 to elect the deputy chairs to the committees if there's going to be more than one nomination. So potentially, could I have a heads up as to whether there are any other nominations? Yeah, so B is moot. So C, we've got a list of deputy chairs there. Do I have somebody to move those? Moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Warwick. Any debate? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, that's carried. Now we're up to D. Okay. So I will move D1 and do we need a minute?
Yes. It was just a question whether B and C were moved together, moved and seconded together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll just check with the movers of C that you're happy that you moved B as well, which was the voting system, just so we have a mover and a seconder. Yeah, that's all good. So it's on the record. So now we're up to D1 and 2, which is the delegations for committees, subcommittees and community boards, and the appointments of membership to committees and subcommittees, as in Appendix 3. So first of all, I will move and second the report. So once it's moved and seconded, then you can do your amendment, Councillor Wilson. So we've had this circulated today, which has a number of additions and corrections. So they will be transferred to the report. Does everybody understand that process? It's all good. So this is instead of what's in the report, this membership here of the committees. And then I've had some suggestions from community board members, which I am happy to adopt as mover. And as I go through, if anybody wants any of those to go to a vote, please sing out, because it'll just save a lot of time if we don't have to put them all to a vote. So the first thing I have on my list is to have a community board delegate on our risk and assurance committee. Does anybody have any problem with that?
I have a question.
Okay, I'll take a question around that.
What?
Right, okay. Given that there's going to be a person, what's the mechanism for determining which of the 5 community board chairs that's going to be?
Oh no, it'll be all of them. It'll be all of them. So it's community board. A delegate from each community board can sit at risk and assurance at the discretion of the chair. So we're making it the same as last time. They've looked up the last time's delegations and they're making them the same. So if everybody's happy for them to roll over the same as they were last time, with of course the addition of our Ramati Community Board. So it'll be the same as it was in the last triennium.
Oh, no, I'm aware of that. It's just, so what are the voting and speaking rights?
Well, there won't be voting rights, it'll be speaking rights, yeah.
Can I recommend that instead of saying as appended in Appendix 3, we change it to as per the updated tabled document?
Okay, I'm going to amend the motion. So instead of it saying as in appended, actually I'm gonna get a seconder for this so that I can get their okay. So the deputy mayor has seconded. So anything that you have a problem with is seconder too. Make sure you let me know. So would you like to describe the suggested amendment, Steffi, please?
So the suggested amendment to the resolution will then read as appended in the tabled document. So after this meeting, we'll make sure that our team updates everything that you have discussed in this document and the governance structure, and we'll append that to the minutes. So if community were to check what we have amended at this meeting, it's all nicely documented.
Very good. I do want to note that there's just a rogue councillor at the bottom here. I think Councillor Warwick's name's been left off. Councillor Coe, did you have a question or a comment? You're okay? Oh, great. So the next one was Waste Levy, to have all of the community boards represented on that. I'm mainly looking out to see if the chair of the grants committee minds a monster of a waste committee there. The other thing was that the chairs or their alternates sit at the council table, and then for the rest of the committees, it's as it stands, a representative. I'm also thinking that a representative or their alternate. Yep, no. For the council, it's chair or their alternate, and for the other committees, it's a representative of the community board or their alternate. So it's clear that it's expected that there's a particular representative who's meant to be there, but in the event that they can't, then we can have an alternate from that community board. So page 24, there was a bit of a correction from Councillor Spires around the Ramati, Paraparaumu rather than Paraparaumu Ramati. Then there was on page 41, we are also giving non-appointed ward councillors a seat at the community board. That's ward councillors, non-appointed ward councillors, a seat at the community boards, the same as the mayor or deputy mayor, speaking but not voting rights. And then page 60, we were adding the annual plan to the list of community board delegations alongside the long-term plan. Yep. Do we have anything about that?
Through you, Your Worship. Look, in terms of the document itself, it's actually correct. There's a delegation that actually pertains only to the long-term plan, so it's allowing the community boards to input into the long-term plan. Then there's a second bullet point that actually says they can feed into annual plans itself, so that no correction is required, just the particular point that was picked up by Councillor Pravanov, it was specific to the long-term plan. Community boards can feed into all other plans. The document as it stands is correct.
Great, you happy with that, Councillor Pravanov? And now I have page 70 here, but I didn't write down anything next to it. Okay, so that's been resolved. So I've moved and the Deputy Mayor has seconded the motion with our agreed, those agreed amendments. Okay, do I have any debate around any of that?
I actually had my to speak earlier on, except I had to turn it off when, yeah, so that's okay. So going back quite a way, I just wanted to check that on the Waste Levy Committee, that community board representatives only had speaking rights, not voting rights? Or is that, do they have voting rights as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting a nod from my left.
Okay. And so then the other 2 points that I raised in relation to community boards, about leases and the state highway.
So we're going to look into those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I will note that the intention is for this to be brought back for review. At the same time, potentially, as we bring back the panels and advisory groups for review, and that was confirmed as a good thing to do when rereading the Local Government New Zealand standing orders yesterday evening. Regular review of these governance structures is is advised. So we will be doing that. So that's been moved and seconded. Do we have any more debate?
So, in relation, so this is actually, we're doing on D now, aren't we?
Yes.
D. So I wanted to just flag, and this is from a governance perspective, I suppose the makeup of the subcommittees in relation to the main committees in terms of, I suppose it's to do with the makeup and the structure in terms of the subcommittees actually making recommendations, having reports written that then go to potentially the strategy, ops and finance, where they then basically mark their own work by agreeing to it around in a more formal situation, or basically agreeing to it in that committee.
Do you have a proposed amendment to the delegations?
Or
are you happy to look at that when we come back for a review?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways it could be looked at, but I think it's probably best to let it see how it pans out. But I think that there are some governance issues there.
Sure. That's exactly the kind of thing that we'll look at as we go forward. This is a new structure, so good.
Thank you.
In fact, but I should stop saying things because we're in debate. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, so is this an appropriate time to move my amendment?
I think so. I'm not seeing too many lights on for any other comments,
Okay.
so yep.
Right, I'll do that. So
Fire
you've
away.
got the wording for that? Somewhere where somebody can actually read it.
Tarika, can you turn your microphone on, please?
That needs a second.
So just to repeat that with the microphone on, it says that proposed iwi representations on all committees be set aside until adequate consultation is undertaken between appropriate governance bodies.
Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Coe. So that amendment is now open for debate. And right of introduction, Councillor Wilson.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to emphasise right from the start that I fully support iwi partnership arrangements with council, and I have done, as you will be aware, for many, many years. For years that this council didn't engage with iwi properly, I was a staunch advocate for it. What I have a problem with here is that we as a governance group have had no consultation whatsoever with iwi governance groups. And we haven't. Now you may have, Madam Chair, and individuals may have, but as a collective group, we have not done that. To be having a conversation about a group, and I foreshadowed this a long time ago, for us to be having a conversation about mana whenua representation at this table in the absence of previously having discussed this with mana whenua is, I think, appalling. So, like I say, many of us have tried many times to have this conversation. What we need to do is, at a governance to governance level, have these discussions. So, as I say, as a governance group, we haven't talked about these arrangements with current and potential mana whenua partners. And on that, I personally have had no discussion. Well, I've had some discussions, but as a collective, we haven't spoken with Ngāti Raukawa, we haven't spoken with Ngā Hapu o Otaki, we haven't spoken with Ngāti Toa Rangatira, we haven't spoken with Maua Poko, we haven't spoken with Atiawa ki Whakarongatai, and we haven't spoken with Ngāti Awa Tai Kapiti. Now these groups, all of these groups, would like to be represented at this council table. We have not had that discussion. I'm assuming they would like to be here at this council table. Now I don't know, and I suspect most of the people at this table don't know if these groups are pleased with the arrangements that are proposed or they don't like these proposals. We don't know if these groups are resourced to carry out these proposals. We just don't know. And the reason we don't know is because we have, there's been a degree of willful ignorance on the part of council to not engage with iwi. We have not engaged with mana whenua at a governance level, and to make governance decisions in the absence of that is appalling governance. Now, we heard earlier, I'm not singling people out, but just as an example, we had Councillor Kirby say in regards to the gateway, Te Uruhi, we have not sat with mana whenua. This was a justification for not making a decision. He said, we have not sat with mana whenua. He was right, we haven't. Councillor Warwick said she found the lack of consultation with iwi offensive. I agree with her. Andre himself said there had been no consultation with mana whenua on this. I agree with him. Councillor Kofod decried the lack of information, and I agree with him. Now, what we need to do as a group is we need to engage at a governance level with mana whenua to determine their views on these suggested changes. If you want to talk about examples of post-colonialism, this is a great example where you impose a model, a governance model on a group without discussing it with them. And that's appalling. And I would hate to see us go down that track. So that's my amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I believe the seconder has a right of introduction as well. It's not something we ever did last time, but are you wanting to exercise that? You wanting to add to that?
Nigel, turn up.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that, and that is that my understanding is that the partnership model with iwi had a finite lifespan, which ended at the end of the last triennium, and it is the duty of the new elected members to establish on what basis they wish to move forward with iwi, and we have not yet had an opportunity to fully discuss that amongst ourselves as elected members, how we interface with iwi, and I think that's an oversight, and I personally feel vulnerable in the sense that I'm aware of, as you know, of public sensitivities around this matter, and I wish to fulfil my duties in the best possible way so that I can then, with confidence, talk to the members of the community about what we have arranged and why, and the benefits of this. And I feel we need to also set that out in a document which is made available to the public. We need to work on a document which is agreed with mana whenua, which sets out our approach to fulfilling our obligations under the Treaty of Waitangi and the Local Government Act, that we have, so that's something we work on together and make available to the public as the basis for moving forward. Thank you.
Councillor Spires.
May I speak to that, Madam Chair, please? It's just on our agenda, and I could be on the wrong page. On our agenda, page 279, we've got local government obligations under Te O Waitangi, and it's around acknowledging the mandate of mana whenua as the traditional governors. Iwi and Hapu have a mandate based on their role as Indigenous governors of the land. And then the legislation itself provides some help, namely that local authorities must establish and maintain processes to provide opportunities for Māori and contribute to the decision-making processes of the local authority, LGA 2002, section 40. Right about. So, but they have, iwi and Hapu have a mandate under legislation. Yeah. So,
Order.
I've had my say. And I don't know if everybody's read all of this. There's only a couple of extracts from it. But mandate to me maybe mean mandate different to somebody else.
Thank you, Councillor Spires. And I would thank members sitting at the table not to interrupt or to make comment while somebody has the floor. Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I actually concur with Nigel's summation. From a governance point of view, I haven't had any conversations or actually been informed on anything. And although I have been asking, so I find it very hard to make a governance decision when I actually don't know what the partners actually want. Further to that, I believe there's a review built into the partnership agreement. I've never been made available that review, and I don't know if that review has even taken place. Yes. Yep, so I haven't seen the last review or any reviews to make an assessment as to a position going forward from a governance point of view.
I'm just going to ask the Chief Executive to make a clarification so that we just have the information in front of us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Cooper. So we have 6 months in the triennium, the first 6 months in the triennium to conduct that review, and so we will be doing that.
Thank you. Councillor Warwick.
Madam Chair, just for clarity.
Councillor Warwick, and then you can ask your question. Thanks. Clarity. Okay.
Just in regards to the C's review, talking about a 6-month review, can I just get clarity on exactly what's being reviewed?
There's the MOU document.
The Memorandum of Partnership. Councillor Warwick.
My question is, if we're not, I agree, we need to engage, but what is the process in between? Because by not having iwi partners around the table for any of our meetings, we're not upholding anything legally. So what would be the interim if we were to review?
I'll take that as a rhetorical question. So, Councillor Pravanov.
Thank you. So for this part of it, I've actually, the governance structure, I have really struggled with it. I really want to see iwi around, as our partners around the council table. But there is so much information that's going around there. Everything is not, it's not clear. Plus, we have wanted to engage with our partners, but we've been told there hasn't been enough time to do that. And so we're now in a position of where we are potentially making some decisions when we haven't heard directly from our partners. My view is that I hear that, well, the questions have been asked about having interim measures, but my view is we do it once, we do it right. Thank you.
So, yeah, thankfully we can hear from our iwi partners today because they're sitting around our table.
Through yourself, Your Worship, and kia ora councillors. For those of you who have not yet had a chance to meet, my name is Huru Waipaki. I am the new iwi rep for Ngāti Toa. My background is in law and policy and currently work in the central government. In terms of the issues that you've raised, councillors, it is something that not only my previous roles working for iwi with, actually no, let me step that back. In one of my previous roles, I worked at Waikato Tainui, which has probably the most advanced form of partnership between councils and iwi. And I think the issue that you raised are ones that every single council are actually thinking about, right? Which is, obviously, I think everyone is committed to that partnership between mana whenua and councils, and knowing, of course, that, you know, at a principles level, everyone already knows that we have been here for hundreds of years and we're not going anywhere, and we're very much committed to this community and to growing this community in partnership with all of you. And which is why for our different governing bodies, we chose to actually come here to help the local government to actually find ways and navigating ways to actually make our communities thrive together. But as I said, the issues that you raise, councillors, have been ones that have been traversed through local councils everywhere, where it's regional councils or local councils. I think what I have seen from those co-governance and co-management arrangements is that they do take time. It is not something that you will always get right through a review first and then with an ideas and aspirations set out and then somehow you will achieve something. It is something that takes, effort and review and growth and but I think the intent though of how the growth occurs is through the continued discussion. If you remain at the table with each other, you can actually grow together, is I think the main part of what I've seen from Waikato Tainui and other iwi in their partnerships journey with councils. I think if you were to, through talking to your point, Councillor Warwick, if you were to have no other interim measure, then the way it's starting to look, iwi would feel, okay, well then if there's no place for us, that could be, which I don't think at all is what is intended by the councils. It's just simply a case of, as the new council, let us try to understand what is the exact sort of rationale and fundamental relationship as to why iwi and council are at this table in this current format. These governing bodies, why that is, and what the opportunities are. Because I think there is so much opportunity between iwi and with council to actually make wins for our community work. As we've seen from our different bodies, whether it's the cultural point of difference or the economic opportunities that iwi can bring, or even just the social and community wins that iwi can bring to the table. I think those are ones that I don't think the council at all are looking to remove from the table. I think it's just more of a case of how do we work together. My recommendation to the council would be, obviously as you vote, would be to keep the iwi as they are. I think if you were to pull back, it would probably end up in a situation that would be, I would think, quite detrimental to the relationship. I would think perhaps the better part forward is to work our way through it together in a continued fashion, but let's see how that actually moves forward. I think that there is too much that has already been done together to be able to say that we need to peel it back a bit. I think I do agree that it is important to do a refresher as to why the relationships are with these groups and with council, what underpins them, why are they the way that they are, and what are the opportunities and wins that can be done for council and for community. I think that the growth of local government in the future will inevitably end up with stronger partnerships between local government and with iwi, and I think I'm encouraged by what I've seen so far as to where that relationship could go for Kapiti District Council.
Andre?
First of all, I again just respectfully acknowledge the messaging that we're receiving today from our elected members. The reason why this document's on the table today, from my perspective, is that Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai has led an independent review of this council. I think I'm right in saying we're about 4 years down the track, having diligently looked at the governance relationship that you're referring to, which had somewhat become outdated in relation to the original intent that was established through our Uncle Pehi Parata, which established Te Whakamininga o Kapiti. It's probably one of the very first interventions that was established in Aotearoa to establish a relationship and a partnership that's reflective of the treaty obligations that we all have, which we inherit. So I first of all want to recognise again the respectful dialogue to ensure that we're hearing the need for mana whenua to be sitting at the table with you. That review was finally received by this council, and the three iwi came to present that to this council. And following that engagement, I think I'm right in saying that in June this year, almost all of the recommendations of that independent review that we made were adopted. It's significant that at the same time this council conducted their own review. And there are a number of recommendations that have come from both reviews that allow us to sit here at this table today, and for the first time from my experience, seeing iwi, mana whenuas, dotted on all these different committees and our council, because in the last triennium, this council of elected members adopted those recommendations to allow us to be here and to have representation across those committees of council, and to actually sit here as of right in a council meeting and to participate in the decision making that is made for the benefit of this district. And so I don't want you to be under any illusion that there hasn't been a significant amount of consultation that has been undertaken to create a better governance structure than what has existed in the most recent past. And I made a reference earlier to our iwi, to Tatiawaku Whakarongotai, who I'm the iwi chair for that mandated iwi organisation, are right now considering who we will appoint. And I think I'm right in saying the language is chair or alternate, who will be appointed by us to sit at this table with our mandate. And so if there's a need for some further induction for newly elected members who have not been provided with the detail of our review, then I think it's important that the office of this council provide that to you. But we're sitting here today because of the result of that consultation and the successful adoption of those recommendations. I would be extremely disappointed, and I think my iwi would be extremely offended, if our name that appears across these various governance structures were to be eliminated or reviewed at today's meeting. That certainly hasn't created the expectation for me coming here today that we would now simply review things. We're more than comfortable, we're more than happy to go through our process to actually appoint those members of my board at a governance level that will sit at the table of the governance of this council. One of the fundamental important aspects of that outcome is so that we can absolutely better inform the operational arm of our iwi. We probably have the biggest footprint in this district as Tatiawaku Whakarongotai. We've worked extremely hard to secure qualified professionals who consult for us, particularly in the RMA space. In the environmental space, we provide secretariat across the whole of the Wellington region because of the excellence and the qualifications of those individuals who we employ. It would be very disappointing for me after this meeting today to have to go back to my board and to our operational team to say that there's going to be another review. We've done the due diligence, we led the review. Ngāti Tō and Ngā Hapu o Otaki are going to be better positioned because of it. And so I'm wanting us to proceed in accordance with the decisions that were made by this council through a proper democratic process. And the next step for us is for us to actually receive a letter of appointment for our representatives that will be sitting at this table with you for the next triennium.
Tēnā tātou, tēnā koe Andrei, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm going to keep this brief, I think, because the discussion's been long enough. But I encourage all councillors, especially the new ones, take some time to read thoroughly through Te Whakamiringa o Kapiti and the principles that that partnership established between mana whenua and the council. And then I want to applaud the Otaki Community Board members for already having made an approach to come and meet with Ngā Hapu. I would hope that happens in all the community boards, because that's happened already at Otaki, with the exception of a couple who couldn't make it. Rob, you were one.
He's here. He's here.
We'll see you next time, Rob, at the table. But and just to say that we're comfortable that we will work together in Otaki with our community board as partners with our elected people. Yeah, we already have that relationship. We hope that it'll be strengthened across the board in a number of areas. And I would probably be, I could say I'll be surprised if that hasn't already happened with the other community boards. as mana whenua. I would encourage the invitation to occur. Secondly, we would support our Chatiao and Ngāti Tō comments here, and that Ngāha Pū would be disappointed. Not surprised perhaps, but disappointed nevertheless. Tēnā koutou.
So, no, I'm afraid not. Councillor Coford.
Oh, Kapai, Denise and Andre, great to see you at the meeting, and I concur with your deliveries there, and look forward to catching up with you soon. Thank you.
Okay, so before I go to right of reply or indeed withdrawal, I will. I have a few things to say. If you could put your microphones on a little bit sooner. We've already fallen over with that once today. Thanks. Councillor Halliday, Councillor Wilson will have right of reply on the amendment.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do apologise for that. A lot of thought going into this one. There should be, there shouldn't be. And please bear with me on this. At the review earlier this year. Was it earlier this year? Earlier this year. I voted against the motion for the simple reason that I didn't feel, exactly as has been pointed out here, that I had been given the opportunity to either workshop this or talk through this. And I felt that from a governance perspective, I wasn't informed with regards to things. It wasn't a sign of disrespect, I hope, to mana whenua, but I believe in our role in governance with regards to having an understanding of what it is we're agreeing to. Since then, quite frankly, I haven't received much more information in regards to things. But the big difference here is we're sitting at a different table. And Andre, I think, and please confirm this for me, when we had the long-term plan discussion, I think when you came to the first meeting of the long-term plan, I could feel the, I won't say hostility, I'll say trepidation when you came into the room, and it was a very different person that left that room because of what you saw with regards to the attitude of the table towards mana whenua and inclusion in the long-term plan. And that was quite an eye-opener for me with regards to the progress potentially that the last triennium brought to this table. And I'm going to use a comparison. For me, one of the biggest achievements we made in the last triennium was around housing. We came into the housing triennium wanting to do work in the housing space. For me, from what I've seen with regards to the general attitude of this table and the progress that's being made with regards to our relationship with our mana whenua, is that our Māori relationship is going to be, well, I'm going to be pushing for it to be the highest priority that we need to have well sorted out this triennium. And I think we need to take a little bit of a step of faith in regards to the situation we find ourselves in. I'm a little bit uncomfortable about it, but I'm going to take the mayor's lead on this one with regards to following through with regards to the decision at the last table. I take on board what Darren said. I'm going to hold you to the 6-month review, but within that time I expect us to have some very robust conversations with regards to how we work as a interconnected community. I don't want to say co-governance because I don't like that word. I will see respectful dialogue, and I'm sure robust dialogue as well. But I've seen the intent of all the people in this room to get to a certain space. And I'm very, very keen to get there, and I'm not expecting that it'll happen in a hurry. So I'm looking forward to working our way through this, because I think the ingredients are all there with regards to this relationship. and I think it'll be a missed opportunity if we don't keep moving forward in this direction. So I won't be, I'm afraid, supporting this particular motion. I will be supporting the motion as it stands.
Yep, okay.
Excuse me, councillors. Just one additional comment. I think what is relevant is that the paper that did come to council didn't provide the opportunity that was expected for all parties to be able to digest that. And in actual fact, there was no ability for Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai to be here and to accept some responsibility and praise for the work that we had done to help navigate us through the partnership, to the point of being able to present the review in partnership with the council. However, the significant achievements and progressive decisions that were made by those elected members, and I do want to acknowledge there were those that felt completely uninformed. I can't apologise for that, but certainly Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai was not happy that we weren't able to be here effectively to celebrate the progressive steps that we knew would transform our relationship and our partnership. What we are doing today is acknowledging that you went through a democratic process of your own, although it wasn't what we had anticipated by not being able to be present. We're left with the decision that our council made, and we're doing our very best to honour that. We're doing our very best to be here and to re-establish the integrity that is needed for us to navigate the next 3 years together. It wasn't ideal, but we're here at the table today because this local authority made a decision that we couldn't make, and what we're doing now is inheriting that decision. The process may not have been ideal, but we're here at the table today because we respect the fact that a decision was made, which means that we now need to initiate those recommendations that you've made as our treaty partner. And our expectation is that we will do our very best to create a diligent process for providing those people who will sit at the table for you as representatives of this district and make the very best culturally based decisions that we can. Kia ora tātou.
Councillor Pravanov, have you spoken already?
I have.
Okay. So if we all speak twice, then I just think Councillor Halliday had some things that Mr. Baker needed to respond to particularly, and I think that that was necessary, as that's what we're discussing right now, is that representation and that input around the table. So I made an exception, but that doesn't mean we're all going to speak more than once during debate for the rest of the triennium. So I acknowledge what's been said, and I acknowledge that the process could have been different to get us to this point, and I make no excuses for that. That's my responsibility as mayor of this organisation, and it could have been better the way we had this conversation potentially. So my apologies to our iwi partners for that, and to my fellow elected members if you feel rushed along this path. My focus was to try to still have that representation around the table so that as has been said, we can work on it together. You know, we can work on this together. This isn't the end of a process. This is partway through a process. This is starting a process. This is just making sure we're all around the table so that we can continue the mahi that we've started.
We're not all around the table.
And I feel so strongly about that, you know, that there is no way I would support the amendment that's on the table. I've seen over my time as an elected member that we don't just get an iwi perspective when iwi are at the table. We get a wise perspective. We get a perspective that's embedded into our Māori. We get a perspective that's embedded in hundreds of years of robust decision making. You know, we gain so much And as Andre said, pulling back would be actually detrimental. We know, as far as I was concerned, we knew this is what iwi wanted because of the Te Atiawa review. This is still following up on that piece of work. That's been done, that's been tabled in front of us, it's been discussed, it's been implemented. What, we want another review 3 months later because we've got different people sitting around the table? That's not acceptable to me. And the fact that iwi representation needs to be revisited every 3 years because you've got new people at the table, to me, is a process in itself that's flawed. And in a way, we've fallen victim to that. There are other statutory obligations that we have that do roll over. And it's one of the things that's mentioned in the Future of Local Government Review is how problematic it is that all these structures and processes and work that we've been through fall over every 3 years, and we've got to rebuild them. And I think this is like one of those things. So, yeah, needless to say, I won't be supporting this amendment, and I commend the substantive recommendation to the council. I'll now go to Councillor Wilson for a right of reply and note that he has the option to withdraw his motion if he wants to, but that would have to go to a vote at the table.
Right, so there's a few things I want to clarify here. And I'll go back to my original point. I have no issue whatsoever with iwi representation. In fact, one of the best models of iwi representation that I have seen and that I took part in for 6 years was Te Puketaia at Greater Wellington, where there were 6 iwi representatives and 6 Greater Wellington representatives, and it was absolutely fantastic. The work that came out of that was absolutely brilliant. What I have a problem here with, and nobody has suggested anything about pulling back. That is a completely false representation of what's on the table here today. What we wanted, what I wanted and what other councillors wanted was a discussion. And it is unfortunate that this is the first opportunity we have had to discuss any of these issues with anybody. And that's reprehensible. That is a very, very poor process. And thank you for the apology. It's accepted. And
I would think that the word reprehensible, actually, Nigel Wilson, goes against the Code of Conduct, which we're about to pass through this meeting. Thank you.
Well, we haven't passed it yet, so I'll stay with my reprehensible just for now. You can admonish me later if you like. I like the idea that we can be sitting down and talking with partners, with iwi partners. I will reiterate again, when we're talking about we all, we do need to define what that is. Now, I know there's a current mandate, there are current mandated groups, but I have had representation, as some others may have done, from Ngāti Awa Taikapiti, who want to know where do they fit in the picture, and I can quote, "We want recognition as mana whenua and a seat at the table for ongoing discussion on all matters relating to our whenua." Mua Poko similarly want to have some representation at the table. We have not had any discussions. These are mana whenua, and we have not had any discussions with these groups.
Carl means stop, by the way, Nigel.
Well, I have the table at the moment.
Well, actually, Nigel,
I'm closing. These are my closing.
So according
right?
to the standing orders, the things that you say need to be factually correct, and
Yes.
B, respectful. You are
Sorry,
making
which
you
bits
are making
which bits are
state you are making
disrespectful?
you are making you've used quite a lot of language in your right of introduction and reply that have been disrespectful. You are also bringing information to the table that's not verified, and according to our iwi members is not factual. So I will encourage you to stick to the delegations and governance paper that we have and the amendment that you've made, and please wind up your remarks.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, I mean no disrespect to anybody. What I mean disrespect to is the process. It has been an appalling process. If there's debate about who should be at the table, let's have the debate. Janet, you may be aware that for some time I have said quite loudly to our elected members, this was not the forum for this discussion. It wasn't. We should have been talking with our iwi partners prior to this. We didn't, and anyway, so we're here. And so I don't make any apologies for getting issues, hard issues
I'm moving a
on the table.
procedural motion that this be put to the vote. Thank you. So it's been moved
You
by,
haven't given me
do
the
I have a
opportunity-
seconder?
No,
Do I have a
excuse me.
seconder for my procedural motion? The Deputy Mayor, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Aye. Against? Who's against the procedural motion? I'm moving a procedural motion that this gets put to the vote. I'll just get some advice on that, actually.
Exactly. You gave me the opportunity
No,
to
Nigel,
withdraw the motion.
can we switch off Councillor Wilson's microphone, please?
Madam Chair, I think you'll find that as you've spoken once, you're unable to put a procedural motion.
Councillor Halliday has a point. I've already spoken to this, so I don't think I can move a procedural motion. I withdraw my procedural motion, but I'd appreciate it if that could be the end of your debate, Councillor Wilson, and if I could put this to the vote. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I advise that we let Councillor Wilson just finish his statement?
As long as he stays respectful, which
Yep.
he's not at the moment.
Oh, sorry. I'm happy to withdraw the motion. The primary point of the motion was to initiate discussion, and I think we've started that korero, and I hope we keep going with it.
So in order for the motion to be withdrawn, the seconder needs to agree. Yep. And so I put that to the vote that the motion is withdrawn. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. The motion is withdrawn. We'll now go back to the substantive motion. Moved by myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. And that's D, number 1 and 2. So I'll put that to the vote now. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against?
Councillor Kofod?
Has he voted, or does he want to say something? It's too
We're just
late to say
waiting for his
anything
vote.
now.
Yes, there we go.
That's carried. Thank you. So we now have E and F. I can probably take these at once. E and F. Do I have a mover and a seconder for E and F? Am I right here? I've lost the page again. So moved by Councillor Warwick, seconded by Councillor Pravanov. Any debate on those? I'm all over the place today.
Actually, can I
Any
actually...
debate? Yeah?
Just a question, can I actually move a motion that contains my main name? Possibly not.
Might be safer not to. Maybe I'll Councillor Halliday second. Move Councillor Warwick second and Councillor Halliday. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? It's carried. Rethink on this one. Okay, now we're on to the appointment of the chair of the District Licensing Committee. Hopefully this conversation will be a little more pleasant. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute breather, guys. We're going to take a 5-minute breather. Actually, we're due for a break. We'll come back at 3.